What's poppin', everybody? Anthony Tay here, checking in. One half of the Swinging DJs, bringing you a solo today. Um, so, if you guys don't know, me and my wife have started a podcast called The Swinging DJs. It is out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and I think Amazon Music. But in that podcast, we talk about our lifestyle. So the swinging lifestyle, polyamory, polygamy, everything that we've experienced, things that we haven't experienced, so on and so forth. From that podcast, I've gotten a lot of feedback from gentlemen that are following me on social media, and a lot of it's a lot of confusion, right? So today I'm going to talk about what I would consider deconstructing the threat. Okay, so a lot of the feedback has really just been kind of typical male ego stuff, right? Like, how can you watch your lady, you know, get railed by another dude? Like, as a man, I don't understand how you do that, right? Well, at the end of the day, it's really about pride and ego, right? So when I say deconstructing the threat, as men, we are genetically programmed mostly to protect. We're the protectors, right? You're a protector of any perceived threat that might be towards you, your family, whether it be your wife, your kids, whatever, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, whatever. Like, our job is to be the protector. And so when we perceive a threat, our job is to eliminate the threat, right? A lot of men will see another man as a threat to their existence, as a threat to their whatever their peace or their safety is, right? So let's relate it to the idea of polyamory or swinging, right? So, like, we meet a couple, the dude is into my wife, I'm into the other dude's wife, whatever it may be, right? What's the threat, right? Like, let's talk about what the threat is the threat that the fact that he might be better than you, he might be bigger than you? Well, hell, I mean, you're not the best that there ever was. I don't know if there really is such a thing. But that's the threat, right? That's the perceived threat, is that he's better than you, and you're worried that he might be better than you, aka you're worried that she might crave him more than she craves you. Well, that becomes a shortcoming on your part, not his part, not her part, but yours. You are not secure enough in your relationship or your marriage to allow anybody else to come in and possibly be better than you at something, right? So, me personally, I try to be well rounded as a husband. I try to give my wife her love language, right? Her love language is essentially acts of service, words of affection, and physical touch. Excuse me. So I try to give her affection in that way. I also try to go out of my way to make sure that she knows that I love her in whatever it is that she does, however it is that she does it. So, me personally, I'm very secure in my marriage. I'm very secure in myself. Has my wife been with people that are potentially better lovers than I am? I'm sure she has. She's never told me, but then again, I put a lot of pride into my sexual conquest. Like, I try to almost study, right? Like, I study how to become a better lover, how to become a better husband, how to become better in bed, how to last longer, how to pleasure her in different ways, right? So for me, it's like I'm constantly evolving. I'm constantly trying to evolve myself. Again, I'm a man that takes pride in his sexual conquest and his sexual exploits. So for me, I'm very secure in that manner. Now, as other men that are asking me this, you may not be that secure in it, right? You might be like, "Oh, well, I lay it down." Well, okay, well, if you lay it down, what difference does it make, right? Like, what difference does it make if somebody else lays it down too? Now, all of this really kind of goes back to deconstructing the threat. The threat is perceived from a first person point of view. So you see another man crave your woman or crave your lady, whatever it is. You're the type of dude that is you're potentially most likely an alpha male type ego, right? Like, I'm the man, this is my woman, this is my girl, mine, right? So a lot of that's possession too. It's like possessive. And some women want to be possessed. And so in that situation, that's probably going to be a very monogamous relationship, and that's probably going to work out very well when the woman wants to feel possessed and when the man wants to be possessive, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, that's really not the world that we live in for the most part. And when it comes to common everyday relationships now, evolution has happened, right? This isn't the 1920s or the 30s where cheating was different. Like I wasn't around back then, so I don't really know how you cheated on somebody back then. But now it's just so easy to pick up your phone, hop on an app, and start like chatting it up with somebody. All of a sudden now it's like started in the DM. Now we're here. You know what I mean? So it's just a lot different, I feel like. And I feel like evolution and adaptation is what keeps us surviving and what keeps us thriving as a society and humanity. But a lot of people don't want to evolve with the relationship or the marriage, right? So when you talk about like different apps, right? So Bumble, for instance, me and my wife were on Bumble for a little bit. You would not believe how many people are on Bumble that want a third, right? They always want a third typically, and it's usually the guy that initiates this. He wants a third. The girl will go with it because she didn't have a problem with women, but it wasn't really her idea. And this is something that we've experienced numerous times. But it's very, very common these days to explore different types of relationships. Once you remove your pride, once you remove your ego, once you remove those social and societal defects that have been planted in your brain, it's actually a lot more productive and progressive than one may think. But this is all really coming from a man's perspective, right? Because a bunch of men have approached me just really confused as to how I'm okay with a lot of this stuff. Well, I have my ego and my pride is my family. I am prideful of the family that I've created. My ego doesn't really exist in my relationship. My ego exists in like business, right? Like I like to be successful in business, and ego wise, like I don't want my ego to be deflated. But in my relationship, I've learned, I didn't always used to be this way. I've learned to allow my ego to bypass typical feelings of jealousy, frustration, guilt, like all this stuff, right? Like, so in a relationship, I don't have an ego. But regardless, this is kind of, I think I'm kind of getting off topic. So to answer the question in a broad spectrum, how am I okay with it? I've deconstructed the threat, right? Now, if that threat becomes real, meaning like that man becomes obsessive over my wife in the point where he starts showing up to my house unannounced, unwelcomed, uninvited, that's a real threat. That's a threat that I will handle accordingly. But there is no threat to me when we are at a party with people that are as open as we are, and my wife is desired. My wife is beautiful. My wife is completely fucking drop dead gorgeous. And yes, I completely expect her to be lusted after and wanted, right? I have no problem with it because guess what? I'm lusting and wanting after other women as well. So why do I get to do it but she can't, right? That's just not fair. And what's fucked up about a lot of this too, as men, there's a lot of you out there now, and I know you too. There's a lot of you out there now that are fucking around on your ladies anyways. You're just not telling them about it. So why not be honest, be open in your next relationship, not this one, because you can't go back and say, oh, hey, by the way, I've been cheating on you for a year and a half now with like 2 or 3 other women. Because at that point, she's never going to trust you again. But in your next relationship, why not try to do something different, right? Like, why not try to be like, hey, by the way, this is how I feel about you. This is how, how I feel about this, that, and the other. But here's this alternative road, alternative lifestyle. Let's try to figure this out, see how we can make this work for the both of us. However you need to present it. And if you need help presenting it, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you. But the reality is there's a lot of people that I know personally that will fuck around on the people that they're with. And it's a double standard, right? Because the second that she starts talking to somebody else, the world is over. Like everything is ended. And that's when men get violent. That's when men throw their fucking temper tantrums. That's when men get physically abusive, verbally abusive, mentally abusive. And that's when the cycle starts, right? Women, you're not exempt from that. But men are typically the biggest proprietors of rage when it comes to jealousy, right? At the end of the day, it's just like, to me, it seems so simple. To me, it seems so pragmatic almost to do something different. but everybody else thinks differently, right? Like I know guys that will fuck 3 or 4 different women that they think they're the only one. You really think, baby, you're not the only one. All right. So it's like we live in this world already, but people, it's like that movie Don't Look Up on Netflix. Like we live in this world already, but some people just choose to ignore it. Some people choose to think that we don't live in this world. There are good men out there. There are good women out there. And guess what? There are. Don't take that the wrong way. There are good men and good women. There are men and women that will completely be monogamous and completely be faithful for the rest of their natural born lives and be happy about it. Polyamory, swinging, lifestyle, polygamy, E&M is not for everybody, but it is for a majority of the people that I know, because you guys are already in relationships where you're fucking up and you fucking around and nobody knows about it. And those relationships are also very, very toxic, right? Like I see it. I see it on social media. I get text messages about it. Like the shit is already happening. So it's like, step back and wonder why. Like, ladies, how many times you guys get an urge to go through your man's phone? Why do you have that urge to begin with? Do you have that urge because maybe you have an intuition? Do you have that urge because maybe he's too flirtatious outside of this relationship? He likes, like, I had this issue a long time ago when I liked a girl's picture. Yeah, I like the picture. Yes, I do. And if you're the type of girl that has a problem, if you're the type of girl that has a problem with that, ask yourself why. Because you're in the same boat as the men I'm talking about. You're possessive. It's like, oh, this is mine. Like, you can't have it. First of all, let me explain something to anybody that's going to listen to this whole thing. You cannot own people. We are not in that day and age anymore. You cannot own people. Okay? You can nurture them. You can nurture their hearts. You can nurture their dreams. You can support their dreams and their habits and whatever it is. But you cannot own somebody. You do not own. Me and my wife are married. I don't own my wife. My wife can make her own decisions. She's a free woman to make her own decisions as she sees fit. Period. I can't do anything about it because I am merely a man, right? So anybody that has this idea of possession and ownership, that's a toxic mentality to have, but more power to you if you find a counterpart that supports it, that can exist in that realm with you. But from my experience, it doesn't last very long. It's not like it's a sustainable way of life, right? But anyways, I think I'm maybe getting off topic, maybe not. But at the end of the day, the reason that I'm okay with certain things is because I've deconstructed the threat. The threat is no longer real to me. If it is real, then I handle it. It's never been real. Luckily, I've been in a position where it's never really been a real threat before. But if it's a real threat, I'll deal with it. But the perceived threat is not actually real anymore to me. It's not perceived anymore because my job in my marriage has been solidified through all the years of hard work. Her pleasure is my responsibility when it's on me. Like when me and her are interacting, I make it my responsibility. I make it my purpose. But I'm only one man and 7 billion people. I cannot fulfill every single fantasy or every single urge or every single whatever it is that she has. So therefore, I don't try to. And it makes it easier on me because I don't have to. It's like stress wise, I don't have to deal with it. Like I can do what I do. She can do what she does. We can do what we do together and we can build. And that's what we've been doing. We've just been building and building and building and building. And that's why we've been so supportive of each other over the past few years, is because we've learned that once you remove the pride, once you remove the ego, once you remove the sense of being enough, it's like life tends to flow a lot easier and you stop hitting those roadblocks that you're hitting, right? Also, if you're one of those people that I was talking about in this rant about you having a pride and an ego, but you're also the one that's fucking around on your significant other, check yourself, right? And I don't mean like check yourself like leave. I mean check yourself. Before you pass judgment on other people for the way they live their life, check yourself, right? If you're in a relationship that you cheated or you've been cheated on or you've cheated and that person doesn't know about it, check yourself, right? Because that's it's a standard now. It's like a societal norm. I talked about it in a rant the other day about Reddit, how this guy was interested in this girl. She knew he was in the lifestyle. She turned him down because she didn't want to be in that lifestyle, quote unquote. But then she went and got back with the dude that cheated on her 3 times. Okay. This is on Reddit. This is not a real life experience that I've known, but this is something that I read on Reddit. But yeah, it's just not one of those things that I think really needs to be, I think this is one of those things that really needs to be addressed and talked about a little bit more often, because there is also people that we know, that like personally we know, that have thought about this, that are in this mentality of like, okay, this might actually make sense, this might work, but it's not going to be overnight. You're going to have to work, you're going to have to put in the hours, you're going to have to put in the effort. You're going to have to really become vulnerable, right? You're going to have to say stuff that doesn't feel natural. Like as a man, it doesn't feel natural to me to say, well, I didn't like the way that this interaction went because I felt left out. That makes me sound like a bitch, right? Why does it make me sound like a bitch? Because it's a societal defect. It's a defect that men cannot be vulnerable and speak their mind and say what they need to say because it makes them look a certain way. Guess what? My wife appreciates the fact that I can be honest with her about how I feel about something. This is real. This is real too. Our first full swap, which is where we swapped with another couple, I felt left out, right? Because they were both super into her and I felt like I was a side dish. Like I felt like I was like on the side and I didn't like the way that felt, right? So I had to speak up, but I wasn't emotional about it. I wasn't rude. I wasn't disrespectful. I processed my emotions and I spoke them adequately, right? And she appreciated me for saying that. And since that moment, it's never happened again. So it's like, you're going to have to be vulnerable. Men, you're going to have to be vulnerable. You're going to have to say stuff that doesn't sound natural saying, right? But that's okay. You can keep your machismo facade. You can keep whatever it is that you feel like you got to keep. But in your relationship, be honest, be open, be vulnerable. Because if not, you're going to come across some lady one day that's going to tickle your fucking fancy. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to do some shit you shouldn't fucking do. And you're never going to say anything about it. It's going to be one of those things where she finds out about it through her homegirl. She goes through your phone. It's going to be dramatic. You're going to blow up. And guess what? That's when the toxicity starts, and that's when it starts to evolve, right? So all I'm saying, do you, but do you constructively. Also, get out of your own way of thinking and understand that there are other ways to live life. Right? There's other ways to live life. There's other ways to live in a relationship and be happy and be peaceful with clear communication, clear and concise boundaries and levels of respect and honesty. All right. That's all I got for y'all today. If you stayed through the end, thank you guys so much. Again, Swinging DJs podcast. We are on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon currently. Got 4 episodes out. In those episodes, we are extremely vulnerable. We talk about our journey, our process, things that we've known, things that we've learned, things that we fucked up on, and things that we still want to do. But again, we are not therapists in this. We're not professionals at it. We've just been at it for a while. We've made our mistakes. We're trying to share those mistakes with you guys, and we're trying to deconstruct societal norms and correct the defects that we see in common everyday relationships and marriage. Anyways, thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.